Hello and welcome to this 15-minute author interview. I'm Lee Davies from MTA, Meet the Authors, and also author of The Utopia Conspiracy.
Hi, I'm Rob Jones, also from MTA, and author of the Mickgate series. On today's 15-minute author interview, we're talking to Brittney Garner Klingbeil, whose pen name is Evil's Angel, and she is the author of the Price of Blood series.
Brittney Garner Klingbeil from Kansas in America, and she's bringing to us her series called The Price of Blood. So welcome, Brittney. Thanks for joining us today. And yeah, if you could just tell us, what is the Price of Blood all about?
The Price of Blood, it's a story that's been in my head for a few years now, but I was never really sure where to start it. And then my husband went on his third deployment, and I needed something to keep me sane. So I started it. Just flat out started a scene, went for it. And I got 4 books written while he was gone.
Wow.
And they're about 90,000 words each. And it starts with a woman who she's a princess, and she just reached the age to be married off. And her whole world, which you'll see, starts terrible. She's lived a very horrible life. And she's getting married off to go to someone who is, as far as she knows, just as terrible as what she's leaving. And it's a fantasy world with dragons and magic and demons, but it's going to be a whole world that you get little bits of, and you get more characters than just the main 2. So you get more storylines to follow through during the book, which I find more fun than just following 2 people. I think they're boring. But so it's about growing and developing. It's about, she's lived this horrible, very sheltered and tortured life, and she has to go into this new world and evolve and change and grow. And you see her development, but you also see the interactions with others and their developments and their changing. And nobody in this book is perfect. There's no good or evil. You just are. There's no defined, this is a good person because they're like this, because you'll see another side to them and you'll go, what? But you were just this. So why are you this? Because this world is survival of the fittest. And kind of lawless without being lawless, because whoever's the most powerful sets the rules. Mm-hmm. And you have to do what it takes to live the life you want to live.
It sounds incredible, and it looks great on Amazon as well, as does your description. And I like the way you're talking about characters developing, and lots of characters. I do the same thing. I'm interested in many protagonists rather than 1 or 2, and I like the idea of when you get to the end, these are almost like different people. So I'm fascinated, but in other ways, my genre is nothing like yours. So I was wondering, how did you arrive at that? Is it something you loved before you started writing?
Yeah, I've tried to write like children's books, but my mind is way too dark. It just, I'll get like, oh, that's a sweet little caterpillar. Oh, that just got squished. And I've just always been on that kind of darker scale.
Yeah. So
why you get the dark fantasy and the romance scale. I mean, I'm a woman. I like a good romance, Hard to find good ones sometimes, I feel, because it comes down to your preference. So a lot of this is just written for me to make.
Yeah.
If I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to write it. And I've got over 600,000 words on this now. So I obviously enjoy it.
Is there anything that you sort of you would compare it to that's out there at the moment? Is there sort of any films or series or other books that you would sort of likened it to?
I would say not. You've got the whole Game of Thrones, which is something everybody knows about. So there's a lot of that, but there's not as much political into it. But some of like the relationships that you'll see with characters, you can see in a little bit of that. Unfortunately, I don't like a lot of things that are out there right now because I'm really picky and really impatient. So most of the influence is kind of just what's in my own head, which might actually be a scary thought.
No, I think it's good. I think somebody came to me about one of my characters once, and I'd put a bit into my book, and they're like, "That's a weird place that your mind's gone to." And I'm like, "I'm not saying I would do this. I'm writing a character. This is a character, it's not me." So
he would.
For characters that they definitely rank on my they are horrible scale, and they're nothing I would touch with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
They're a character for a reason,
What I found really interesting that you just said about there's not a lot of great stuff out there. I think that's sometimes why we write, isn't it? You start to write something that you're really, really interested in. But I was going to ask you, do you have a problem then? I do. I've got an unusual genre that's a bit niche, and mine's a bit weird. It's a bit silly, some of it. So people always say, what is your book like? Which author you like? Do you have problems with that? Because I do.
Yeah. I would
Makes
say
it hard to market, doesn't it?
It does, because they want something to compare it to. And there's like Laurel K. Hamilton. She's a great author. And Anne Rice. Those are ones that I grew up on, and I love them. But I haven't touched their works in years. So, I mean, I could say, yeah, from this series, there's a little bit of this in here. But my stuff is darker than what either of them wrote. But then they'll go, well, is it like this person or this person's book? And I'm like, I haven't read their book. I'm sorry. I'm too busy, which is a terrible thing to say. But when you have 80 plus animals and a husband and a family, you get busy. And I have to choose, do I write or do I read or do I watch something? And I actually haven't really watched TV in almost 2 years since I've started writing these. And I haven't read practically anything because I've been writing.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about your sort of style when you're actually doing it? So for me, I can visualize the scenes that I'm writing about as if I'm in the actual story itself. And I will sort of almost like look around and go, okay, I can see that there, and I can see it, and I write that. And I know other people almost do it as if they're watching it on TV, so they're not involved in it, but they're watching it from afar. Is either of those your style, or how would you go about it?
It's kind of the same. Most of the time when I'm picturing it as watching it, and that's kind of the point of view you get from my books. You get to see everything. I don't like first person. I can write it, but it's not something that fits in this book because it limits the world around, because then you're limited to what that person notices. Yeah. Whereas in my books, you'll read about little details, and you have to follow those or you'll get lost in some of the things for my story, because I like to fill my world with just little world building details. Like in one scene, he talks about the sky, and I'm not going to go into details for it, but there's one phrase that he says in there that tells you why he mentioned it. And it makes more sense later when you think about the fact that I have a world full of angels and demons and monsters, but my sky is not full of people flying around for a reason. So there's reasons why.
Yeah.
And I've found outside perspectives, somebody watching, you can put in those details better than a point of view.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what we're trying to do is help and give advice to people who haven't been writing very long, holistically, almost everything. But we're very interested in marketing. And again, like you said, you don't have time for everything. So when I speak to some writers, I do the same thing. I can either write or I can market, or I can do what we're doing at the moment. But you can't do all of it at the same time. Have you found it difficult marketing your book and getting it on sale?
A little bit. Right now, I'm not hugely pushing for my marketing. I went in to find a couple of Facebook groups that are a target audience for some of the things that are in my books. Like, I'm in a Facebook group for monster writers and fantasy and romance. So I'm in a couple of those, and they make posts, and you read the posts, and if your book fits it, you say, hey, this is my book.
Yeah.
And that's about all the marketing I've been doing, because I'm not worried about marketing yet. A lot of people are like, I put one book out and I want to market and market and market.
Yeah.
You've got one book. You're spending money for people to see one book. If you're listing it as a series, me personally, if I see something that's a series and it has less than 3 books, I don't touch it. It's terrible. It's a bad thing, but that's my habit, because it's like, at 3 books, they're dedicated to it, and they'll finish it out. Before that, no, they might not finish it.
Yeah, it takes time, and a lot of people say, if you want to succeed, just write, and but it takes time to get there. It does,
But I waited until I'm writing on book 6 before I started to put out the first one, because I didn't want to fall behind, because then you feel pressured. And if you feel pressured to do something, you're going to put it off. That's just human nature. We procrastinate.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I've got 5 books that once I have covers for, they're ready to go. I'll put out the first 2 back to back, and then the third one a month later. And then I'll have my series covers. I'll have the first 3. And then from there, I'm going to put out 1 book about every 4 to 6 months. And that gives me time to keep writing them. But it takes the pressure off. So my advice would be, keep yourself as little stress about it as possible. Because if you stress about it, it becomes a job.
Yeah.
So just take a breath, put your first one out, get on a couple of Facebook page. And we're already on Facebook anyways. We might as well be productive about it. And just do a little bit. Don't expect that I've put my first book out, I'm going to make the millions. No. But just go ahead.
So I was going to ask you a question on sort of going back to your stories, and we were saying about this whole world that lives in your head. How do you keep track of everything? Because obviously, within a genuine, normal storyline, you've got your characters and your locations and so on. For what you're doing, it sounds so vast. How do you keep track of who said what and what characters were?
So for me, I constantly go back. Like, I've published the first 2 books. I've still gone back and edited them. I've still gone back and fixed little things and stuff. And eventually maybe I'll release another one if I've made a change that requires an update. But I've gone through and reread stuff so many times. It's like locked in my head of who's got what. But I've also made like a very, very badly drawn map in Word.
Yeah.
So I have a little map with little location points so that I can kind of remember the distance it takes to go from here to there. And I have a character sheet. So all my characters have a character sheet. It's not separated. I should separate it, but it's just one really long Word doc that just keeps going. But as the story develops, say if I add a detail on them, like somebody picks up a scar, that gets added onto their character sheet. And that helps me keep track of everybody. And then my story plays out kind of day by day. So when I get ready to start the next day, I'll make just a couple of word lines of what I want them to do. Whether they do it or not, that's a whole nother story. But that was the end.
Brilliant.
Well, I've got to thank you, because besides anything else today, I think you've offered quite a lot of good advice. And writers plan and write in many different ways. I'm not a great planner. You are. I'm interested in what Lee is. Lee's very, very meticulous as well. And I think that's what we're trying to do, introduce different approaches. And one of the things you said earlier fascinated me as well. Is about, there's so much, if you seek advice now, there's so much stuff now about how you're going to make your first million, how do you sell this many books, how you're going to be a bestseller. And I love that thing about you taking your time, because obviously money's not everything. What are your ambitions for your books eventually? What would you like to happen with them?
I would love an anime made from them, because I don't want live action. One, because finding characters to fit the profile, that's hard, but it's even expensive. And unfortunately, with the magic and things like that in my story, it's easier to draw that out than it is to CGI it.
Yes.
And I'm so picky that, but I mean, I think this would be a good anime style. So I would love for this to get adapted to an anime, be a long series. But realistically, I just want other people to enjoy it. I just want to reach as many people as I can. If I make a lot of money, great. That is the best bonus ever. But I'm happy just writing it. And that's my main goal.
Brilliant.
That's how I live my life. You do what makes you happy. And this makes me happy. So I'm going to keep writing it. Even if it never sells.
It's quite therapeutic as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said,
you get lost in there, don't you?
I started this when my husband went on that deployment, and it helped keep me sane.
Yes. Where did he go, if you don't mind me asking?
He went to Kuwait.
Right.
He's was gone for about almost 7 months.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, for both of you. Yeah.
It was our first deployment with him being in the guard and having this huge menagerie of animals and a house to take care of was a lot.
Wow. And so you say you've got 2 books out in the series now, and you're planning on writing lots more in this series. It's
probably looking like at least 12, because what's in book 6 right now was supposed to already be in book 3, but my characters and my side characters found stuff to do, and it added to the world. So I'm not going to get mad at them for it, but they're not listening.
You had to do the same, Rob, didn't you? You had to bring off a separate book for one of your characters. So
I did. Exactly. I did 5 books in a series. And what people were saying which I did, I love this particular autistic character. So I thought I'll just tell his life story. And in some ways it seemed a little disjointed. But I was saying to Lee the other day, I've got to write the other one, because people are still wondering what happens after book 5, So I'll get it done. Yeah.
I've kind of got something like that kind of planned. So this story starts with Lashiel's perspective, and she's the main female protagonist. But I have scenes written out for Zaref's perspective. That's actually a sub-series, and it shows the actual beginning of it all, because he's the one that actually initiates this story, but not in the beginning of this story.
Right.
So you actually see his history up to when the marriage is arranged.
Brilliant.
But I don't want to get to that because they're not obeying me, and I'm not done with this one.
So for anybody who's going to come on and watch this now, thanks very much for doing this author interview with us. Really appreciate your time. And it's available on Amazon currently. The 2 books are out there. And is that the main point you're selling through? Is there anywhere else that they can access?
For now, the Amazon and under the Kindle Unlimited.
Okay. That
may change in the future, but I'm not too worried about it right now. This is just exposure, really.
Yep.
Kindle Unlimited. It allows more people to start getting into it, and then if I actually get a rather large following, I may change it out and spread it around to other distributors.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm actually in a contract with them, so.
That's fair enough. So, this video will be going out on our YouTube channel, and we will put the links underneath this video to your Amazon site. So anybody who wants to go and check it out can click on there.
Awesome.
Right. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, and wish you all the best for the future.
Yeah, it's been a delight, and you've been very interesting talking to you as well, Brittney. Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
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 That's all from us. So until next time, stay safe and keep enjoying those books. Please make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram. And for more author interviews, how-to guide, and useful tips and tricks, head over to our website at meettheauthors.net.